My sister turned my wedding into a circus by bringing her boyfriend dressed as a clown. So, I exposed the dark past of her previous relationships, and now she is single.
I, 31M, have always prided myself on being laid back, preferring to avoid drama and keep my relationships positive. Growing up, I never imagined I'd end up clashing with my own sister so severely. But after what she pulled at my wedding, I had no choice. My sister, 2 years younger, was once my partner in harmless pranks. She always craved attention, but I shrugged it off as sibling quirkiness. Over the years, though, she became more entitled, demanding special treatment at gatherings and throwing tantrums if she didn't get her way. I tried to believe she would rein in her behavior for my wedding. My fiancée, now wife, worried about potential drama, but we felt obligated to invite my sister anyway. We even asked her to help with decorations, hoping involvement would keep her satisfied. We never truly foresaw the circus she would unleash. 4 months before the ceremony, she dropped cryptic hints about her new boyfriend. She said he was unforgettable, boasting that he'd bring excitement to any event. My wife grew uneasy, but I tried to stay optimistic. Maybe he was a little unconventional, but that didn't have to spell disaster. On the morning of my wedding, I was greeting relatives when my sister burst in wearing a glittery dress more suited for a nightclub than a formal gathering. Right behind her was a tall man in a clown costume, complete with painted face and a rainbow wig. Gasps rippled through the guests. My wife's parents looked horrified. My sister stood there, beaming, as though she'd just unveiled the party's main attraction. Her smug expression told me she had meticulously planned this stunt. That moment set the tone for the day. My sister's boyfriend started honking a clown horn, juggling plastic flowers, and offering balloon animals to baffled relatives. The officiant seemed unsettled, pausing mid-preparation to take in the bizarre display. My sister acted as though nothing was amiss. She linked arms with the clown and paraded around, milking every gawking stare. My wife looked on the verge of tears, whispering to me that her dream ceremony was turning into a joke. Determined to salvage what I could, I politely asked my sister to step aside for a quick word. She rolled her eyes, huffed, and then begrudgingly followed me to a corner. All I wanted was for her to respect our event, but she had other plans. Her smirk showed she relished this new chaos. I pleaded with her to tone things down, reminding her it was my wedding day, not a stage for clown tricks. She called me uptight, accusing me of failing to appreciate her flair. I tried explaining that my wife was distressed, but my sister just shrugged. She told me if I couldn't handle a bit of fun, maybe I shouldn't have invited her. Furious, I threatened to have them escorted out if they kept disrupting the ceremony. Her eyes flashed. She hissed that if I embarrassed her, she would dig up old stories from our childhood to humiliate me in front of everyone. The brazen way she tried to blackmail me made my blood boil. I realized then she wouldn't stop unless I took a stand. I wouldn't let her overshadow my day. The ceremony resumed. We exchanged vows while trying to ignore the clown's intermittent horn honks. Miraculously, we got through the official pronouncement without further chaos. But once we moved to the reception, my sister ramped up her theatrics. She dragged her clown boyfriend onto the dance floor before anyone else, demanding the DJ play a silly circus tune. Guests hovered at the edges, uncertain whether to laugh or cringe. My wife looked stricken, as if her carefully planned celebration was unraveling by the second. I glanced at my parents, who stood frozen, unsure how to intervene. My sister twirled under flashing lights, shouting at people to join them, all the while smirking whenever she caught my eye. I knew I had to act fast. My heart pounded fiercely, yet I barely maintained composure. Summoning my resolve, I signaled the DJ to cut the music. A hush fell. I addressed the room, thanking everyone for coming, then turned my gaze directly on my sister. Her grin faltered. I told her that enough was enough, that she was turning my wedding into a joke, and I wasn't going to stand for it. She rolled her eyes, claiming I was overreacting. But I pressed on, mentioning how she had a pattern of attracting chaos at family events. Murmurs rose among the guests. My sister sneered, daring me to kick her out, reminding me of her threat to spill childhood secrets. That's when I realized it was time to reveal what I knew about her own shady history. The tension in the air crackled. I had to expose her manipulations. Keeping my voice steady, I told the guests that my sister's disruptive antics were part of a long-standing pattern. I revealed how she'd sabotaged past family milestones with outrageous scenes whenever attention shifted away from her. I mentioned she'd been in multiple relationships where she thrived on creating turmoil, how ex-boyfriends reached out, warning us she twisted facts for sympathy. My sister's face flushed red. The clown looked baffled, as though he just realized he was part of a bigger scheme. People exchanged startled glances. My sister tried to interrupt, shouting that I was lying, but I pressed on, reminding her she'd threatened to humiliate me moments ago. I wanted everyone to see that she was no innocent victim. She had orchestrated this circus at my expense. Her eyes darted, frantically seeking an escape. I expected her to lash out, but she just stood there, speechless. The silence was so thick that guests held their breath. Then she tried a final tactic, claiming I'd orchestrated this entire confrontation out of jealousy. She insisted I couldn't stand that she had an interesting boyfriend, while I was stuck settling for a conventional life. People started shaking their heads, seeing her desperate attempt to flip the narrative. The clown scratched his head, whispering something to her, but she waved him off. I seized the moment, making it clear I had no interest in her theatrical existence. All I wanted was to celebrate my marriage in peace. If she couldn't respect that, she was free to leave. She glared at me, eyes brimming with rage. My parents exchanged uneasy, silent looks. Without another word, she grabbed the clown's arm and tried to storm off dramatically. However, he hesitated, asking if any of what I said was true. She barked at him to shut up and follow her. He pulled away, looking uncomfortable. It was clear he hadn't known about her track record of manipulative behavior. Now, in front of a room full of witnesses, he realized he'd been reduced to a mere prop in her quest for attention. My sister cursed under her breath, insisting they leave, but the clown refused to budge. People watched stunned, as she launched into a tirade about how we'd ruined her life. I stood there, breathing heavily, amazed at how her plan to embarrass me had backfired and left her exposed instead. Guests whispered this outburst ended their romance. She stomped toward the exit, clown boyfriend trailing behind, still protesting that he deserved an explanation. Halfway there, she spun around, wagging a finger at me. She screamed that I would pay for humiliating her. Nobody seemed sympathetic. The damage was done, and her own behavior had led to this boiling point. Once they disappeared, a tense hush lingered. My wife looked pale, tears threatening to spill, but I guided her to the center of the room. I apologized to everyone for the drama and asked the band to restart the music. Slowly, people returned to the dance floor. My parents approached me, shaking their heads, admitting they'd never expected her to go this far. I simply nodded, determined to give my wife the reception she deserved. Despite tension, I vowed to celebrate. Surprisingly, the rest of the reception turned out better than I expected. My wife's friends offered support, ensuring she felt loved. Relatives who had been too shocked to speak earlier finally relaxed and joined in the dancing. The band played our favorite songs, and we managed to recapture some of the evening's intended warmth. Yet my mind lingered on my sister's meltdown. This was far from the first time she'd instigated chaos. But never before had she faced such open censure from the family. I heard whispers among cousins who said they were relieved someone had finally confronted her. Clearly, her stunts had worn thin over the years, and few were eager to defend her. I found myself torn between relief and sadness at how it all transpired. I struggled to hide it. A few days later, I received a livid voicemail from my sister, blaming me for ruining her relationship. Apparently, the clown boyfriend had dumped her, realizing she'd used him as a tool. She railed that I exposed her secrets out of spite. She threatened legal action for defamation, though I knew she had no case. Our parents heard from her too, and they stood firm, telling her she had crossed too many lines. Word spread among relatives, and people took my side, tired of her endless theatrics. She vanished from social media soon after, perhaps to avoid questions. Despite my lingering anger, I felt a strange pang of pity. My sister was alone, but it was her entitlement and cruelty that got her there. Still, I refused to regret my choice. I stand. In the weeks that followed, my wife and I settled into married life with surprising ease. Though we received countless questions from relatives about the clown incident, we tried not to dwell on it. We wanted to remember our wedding for the vows and the love we shared, not the chaos my sister inflicted. We reconnected with friends who missed the drama while grabbing drinks or dinner, recounting the bizarre tale only when asked. I sensed my wife struggled with lingering disappointment, but she appreciated that I stood up for us. My mother quietly admitted she wished things could have gone differently, yet she didn't blame me for confronting the truth. My father, meanwhile, said it was time my sister learned that actions have real repercussions. He believed we might finally find peace. As time passed, stories emerged about how my sister tried to paint herself as a victim to distant relatives, claiming I'd ambushed her for no reason. But people weren't blind. They'd seen the clown, heard her threats, and witnessed her meltdown. Nobody bought her sob story. She went silent again, nursing her wounded pride. Meanwhile, my wife and I grew closer than ever, bound by the ordeal we'd overcome on our wedding day. Sometimes we'd joke about the clown fiasco, trying to wring some humor from an otherwise painful memory. It was a reminder that a strong marriage often faces adversity head-on. My sister had tested our resolve, and we emerged united. Though I wished she could have joined our happiness, I wouldn't trade the peace we found afterward. Save from her antics now. Looking back, I realize I never wanted a showdown on my wedding day. But when someone you care about refuses to respect boundaries, you're forced to defend what matters. My sister's choice to bring a clown and turn our ceremony into a spectacle was the spark that ignited years of pent-up frustration. Exposing her manipulative history in front of everyone felt drastic, yet it was the only way to stop her. She ended up single, stripped of the attention she thrived on, while I started my marriage grounded in truth. Though our sibling bond may never heal, I learned that preserving my own happiness sometimes requires difficult decisions. And if that means my sister faces the consequences of her entitlement, then so be it. Now, I begin this chapter free from her disruptions. I finally found some closure.